Imagine with me for just a moment that yellow line that you see on this chart, this reliably sound, consistent indicator. Imagine it plays out on a Bitcoin chart. Here's an altcoin chart. This is everything excluding Bitcoin. Here's ADA. Here's XRP. We're going to visualize this in this video, and I'm going to explain exactly what the yellow line is, why. Nothing is certain here, but one thing is for sure, it is worth paying attention to. Hit the subscribe and like on the way in. I want to lay the groundwork because it's important. Do not forget what's going on here. We just saw yesterday, Fed says it's absolutely ready to help stabilize the market. This is important because we are waiting for the Fed to go into expansion mode. We've been in contraction mode, quantitative tightening for years now. We're looking for expansion. And that's why on something like the Bitcoin chart, we've been kind of looking at this indicator, that green line, that is Fed net liquidity. We've been looking at that indicator, but now we're talking about global liquidity, this yellow line. That's what I really want to discuss in the video. So let's take a look at this post, and then we're going to really chart it and look at it on all of these charts. So Colin over here on X, global M2 money supply breakout. Look at the data here. Bitcoin forecast, and this is a very bold forecast with specific time frame and dates. It looks like Bitcoin will have a 2-month-long pump, May through end of June, followed by a 1-month corrective period in July, followed by another pump from the end of July onward. So here's a fact, a strong data point. BTC has tracked with M2's movements 80% of the time for the past several years. So here's his chart here. And what I did was I basically overlaid the M2 money supply, and we have it on the Bitcoin charts. We have it on altcoin charts, and we're going to look at all of these. I want to just make a note. While this is happening, do not forget, we just came out of the most bearish, high fear event that we've seen since COVID. And we've been tracking the S&P 500, for instance. Look how oversold that it got, right? So we are in a very, very just technically bullish area anyway. And let's break down this data. So on the Bitcoin chart, you can kind of just see, and this is a 108-day lag in terms of the M2 money supply. But what I really want to point to your attention is kind of what he's saying. And this actually plays into maybe even more downside in the days or weeks ahead. And this is something that I think, we can underline this video or highlight this video as being obviously bullish data on the macro. But on the short term, it could actually be a strong warning that there could be some more choppiness. We could see Bitcoin kind of fall into the 70s. And that's not to say that Bitcoin price is following this yellow line. This yellow line, the purpose of it is not to chart or predict the price, but the trend of the price. So with that being said, you can just see in terms of this lagging indicator, here's May, and that's why, Colin's over there talking about May. You can see this starts trending up. Maybe we see Bitcoin start trending up. But notice going into this, M2 money supply was a little choppy. And therefore, right now, and we can tie this into the technical analysis, and this is what I like doing in technical analysis, is just bringing in all of these different data points and really, to the best of our ability, overlapping them, right? So we're seeing this data point, we're seeing the choppiness of M2 money supply even in the days and weeks ahead, and we're saying, okay, now Bitcoin is at critical resistance. So maybe Bitcoin sees resistance and actually starts chopping down again. We're back in the 70s. Everybody's very bullish. Bitcoin's at $74,000 or $84,000 right now. Be very careful, especially, as these headlines are kind of floating around. Somebody out there could very much just come across a post like this and be like, we are so game on scooping up Bitcoin right now, which I don't think is a bad idea in the long term. But then all of a sudden they're scooping it up, and then we're getting the short-term resistance, right? And we're coming back down. The same is true on altcoin charts right now. So we have to put aside the M2 money supply for just a moment. We have to continue doing what we've been doing. We want to see Bitcoin break above the moving averages. The 200-day is around 87,500 or so. We are right in the middle of all the moving averages. We are just below the 50 in blue, as you can see. We're above the green, the 20, but we're below that 200. We want to see Bitcoin start closing candles on the daily chart above all the moving averages. So still a ways to go. If we see Bitcoin trending up to the 200-day, breaking above, then we can kind of start talking about reversal type of stuff. But right now, I'd be very careful, even this weekend with this little pump right now at the 50-day moving average. It could be resistance. We could see Bitcoin kind of come back down. So the global M2 money supply chart is very bullish looking, but do not be faked out in the short term. So, and that's to say, even if it actually happens and we break out in May, be very careful right now. Go to the altcoin charts. And here's where things, I think, become exciting for altcoin holders, because this is, I think, the move that we're really waiting for, that we've been waiting for. That almost if you look at the chart back here, in basically November, we got that breakout. We thought that was the beginning of altcoin bull market. The one thing we didn't have, we had this uptrend, obviously in M2 liquidity, but what we didn't have, I think, is this. And this is why I continually come back to this. The Fed starts, tapering off on the QT and starts leading into QE. That's what we're looking for altcoins. So now we have this environment where we actually might see Fed expansion start happening, and you go back to the altcoin chart, as well as M2 kind of going parabolic here. Now we have a very nice environment, a nice recipe for an altcoin bull market. And so if we want to dig into this a little bit more, and by the way, same with Bitcoin. This is altcoin charts excluding Bitcoin, but right now at the 20-day moving average, the 50-day is still up here at $1 trillion. The 200-day is at like 1.17 trillion. So even to get bullish confirmation of reversal start happening, we still need this chart to pump like 20% and start closing daily candles above. We need a nice 30% pump here. I'm not saying in one daily candle, but we need that to start happening before we start talking about true macro reversal. So again, same with Bitcoin, be careful here. You go to something like an ADA chart and we start really getting kind of an idea, okay, especially you can kind of do this on any altcoin chart, but it gives us a really good visualization. If you're a big ADA holder, for instance, or a big XRP holder, it really does make it more real in terms of what to anticipate. The reason I'm saying that is, okay, here's ADA, also at the moving averages. Right now at the 20-day, might fail. ADA might go lower, right? Whether that be a higher low from this previous swing low back here around 50, 51 cents, or maybe we go even lower. You notice we still have some time for M2 money supply. We still have some time for ADA to catch up. Again, May is the kind of that date here. So what ADA, what altcoins do in the meantime, we have to be very careful. And a really good visualization, and partly why I wanted to bring up ADA and XRP specifically, is you see kind of this gap here, right? This trending up finally, but then altcoins still choppy, red days, lots of fear, testing previous lows. This is very much in play for ADA and for XRP and for altcoins. So as you can tell, I don't know if you noticed or not, this video is incredibly macro bullish. And again, I'm not mentioning all of the things that are going on right now that are ultra bullish for crypto in general, the pro-crypto administration, the global race to accumulate crypto and Bitcoin, and then also things like ADA, all the narratives that ADA has, ETFs, Bitcoin DeFi, Ripple partnership, and then all the things XRP has. I'm not mentioning any of this. We're just looking at charts. But XRP, same thing as ADA. You see this gap here? The breakout happens on M2, but no breakout on XRP, and it's actually trending down and sideways. It's looking very bad, testing kind of previous lows. This is something I just want to be very clear about. This is a very macro bull video, but on the short term, in the weeks ahead, maybe the rest of April, just be careful. I'm not saying we won't break out to the upside, but be careful, because put aside M2 leading indicator, all of these charts, as you can see, are at resistance areas. ADA, the 200-day moving average is up here around 74 cents or so. So from where ADA is right now, we need a move of around 13%. So we need to see this continuation on the short term to start talking about that bullish reversal. And I think the best thing to do in the meantime is just to anticipate choppiness, just to anticipate maybe we're getting resistance at these moving average areas, and then we're coming lower. We're tracking with the M2, similar how we tracked with the M2 back here, choppy, right? And just be careful out there. But all the while, we look at all this data, M2, the SP, the S&P 500, just I just, all of these things coming together they're very, put aside emotion. They're just very bullish. It's the confluence of many bullish things happening for a trend up for crypto. And so again, in these videos, I've been trying to really bring all the data together very quickly. There's so much, there's so many moving parts, but you can see kind of how it is coming together. And I wanted to mention this. Whales are buying Bitcoin like never seen before. And what I noticed on this chart, what I thought was interesting, you can see this accumulator address demand in red. You see how it kind of has like this really swing high going into that, if you look at Bitcoin price, trending hot into that all-time high area. And then right now we have accumulation happening, but it's a lower high. I noticed this. Look back here in March or, March, May or whatever. Same thing, this swing high. And then we had a lower high of accumulation in red. And that lower high of accumulation in red actually was right before the big price breakouts. So it's almost like we see a very similar thing happening on this chart. And I think that is some data to pay attention to. Again, that's just one on-chain metric. There are so many. There are so many factors in play right now, but there's a lot of confluence of bullish data happening, and just wanted to really talk about this one thing, that is M2, kind of confluent with all these on-chain things. So let me know your thoughts, everybody. Appreciate you. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. I think things are going to get exciting again, but we might need a little bit more patience. Turn notifications on. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.